Hi, my name is Robyn. So my VBAC journey, I guess, started with a cesarean section, as per all VBAC journeys. So my first baby, Kaya, was born 39 weeks plus 5. And I ended up having an unplanned section with her because just basically my labour didn't progress. I was induced, and then, however many hours later, it was kind of the safest option for everyone when the labour didn't progress to go to a C-section. Even though my plan was to have a lovely natural birth, and that would have been very much my focus for that pregnancy, and I was part of a domino scheme, and that was like my track. It just didn't go to plan, I suppose, the first time. And when I was in down in theatre, it was all very calm, and I was grateful that it wasn't a traumatic emergency kind of C-section experience, and I'm grateful for that. But when I was down in theatre, I was asked my height, and I said 5'1", and the surgeon said, oh, maybe that's the reason why your labour didn't progress, because this is a big baby, and maybe just the ratio of your pelvis to this baby just wasn't optimal. To my second pregnancy, I suppose that was very much in the back of my mind, that comment that maybe being shorter might impact my ability to have a VBAC. I wanted to have a natural birth the first time, and so again the second time I really wanted to explore the possibility of that. And in my case, that was for lots of reasons. The recovery after my C-section the first time was hard, just not being able to drive, just the pain, and it's serious abdominal surgery. And CMH for my second baby, my booking appointment, I just voiced that I was interested in kind of learning more about VBAC and looking at that option. And then I was lucky that I was put on the VBAC pathway and connected in with that. It gave me a chance to just reflect on my first experience, and through talking about VBACs versus cesareans, and I suppose in my case there was no clear-cut reason as to why I wouldn't have a successful VBAC. And I suppose the continuity of meeting Alex every time I had an appointment, and being able to talk through kind of concerns that might have come up for me as the pregnancy progressed. I just felt very empowered to know what I could do. So the variables that I could control, things like trying to get my baby into the best position possible, in the hopes of having a natural birth, just dampening some of the fears I might have had around contemplating a vaginal birth when I knew that the threshold to go to C-section would be lower in my case. And I suppose there was a few little humps in the road. So one of them was that I went for a second growth scan, and it showed the baby as being quite big again this time. It made me maybe second guess trying to go for a VBAC if I was going to have a big baby again, and maybe you would do all the work and it would result in a C-section anyway. I was very strong in my conviction that I wanted to try to have a VBAC, and that was because of the recovery after, even more so with the toddler at home. I wanted to be able to lift her, I wanted to be able to drive, and just the experience of a natural birth, I suppose, was something that I wanted to have as well. In preparing for the VBAC, I did a lot of the sometimes crazy exercises for positioning, where you have to lie up on your kitchen table and get your husband to push your hip back and let your leg fall over the table, and put you like upside down on the floor with your legs on the couch, and all these crazy things to try and get the baby down, and walk in the rows and curb walking and squatting and lunging at every opportunity. Because I felt empowered that I was doing everything that I could do. And then the next hump came, and at the 40-week appointment I was told the exact opposite of what I wanted to hear. The reg actually said, oh, I think, it doesn't look like there's much happening. I requested to see the consultant, and that was something that I was empowered to do through my contact with Alex in the VBAC service, to never walk out of the hospital without feeling like you have asked everything that you want to ask, and without feeling that you understand what the plan is for your care, and that you're very much the centre of those discussions. So I didn't feel comfortable leaving that day without talking to the consultant about the plan for the C-section, that I still wanted the VBAC. And so we put in a date for 41 weeks, and I was happy that I had been given a little bit of time but not going too far over my due date, and I was happy that I would have a section at 1 week over if needed. But I went home, and lo and behold, the next morning my contractions started, and I almost didn't believe that happened. And I think it just goes to show that your body is working on its own time frame, and you just have to trust that, I suppose, trust in your body and lean into it. And so that day I just had a really relaxing day, shipped my toddler off when things were getting a bit more intense, and I used the Winner Flow device for my contractions, and I had a TENS machine, I had my ball, I had the music on, the incense burning, everything to try and get me into the zone. So I managed to stay home until late that night. It was about 11, and I had my baby at 3:30 that morning. And it was amazing. It was an amazing experience because I came in the door, I was assessed in A&E, and I went straight down to the labour suite. I just could stay in my zone and stay focused on leaning into the contractions, I suppose, hopefully, and what was my end result, having a natural birth. I'm just really grateful that, you know, the variables that I could control, I knew I'd done everything that I could do. But also I was lucky, and you know, there are things that are out of your control as well. And my second baby was in a great position, and she did turn out to be a big baby, just a little bit smaller than my first baby, but it really all did come down to, I think, positioning, and I suppose just that I felt confident and I felt safe, and I felt in really good hands in CMH as well. So a huge difference for me was the recovery after my second baby. So it was just amazing to be able to stand up, hold my baby, sit into the wheelchair, get wheeled back to the ward, and I actually had a shower straight away. And that was honestly just such a lovely experience to not have a catheter, to not be in a bed with you know, the kind of impact of the epidural after a C-section. I found that all really hard the first time around, and not being able to pick up my baby easily, not being able to move around the bed easily, to even press the call bell. I felt so dependent. The second time round, having had a vaginal birth, obviously it's not, you know, a walk in the park, but it was just really nice to have my own independence back and be able to lift up my baby and go home and hold my toddler and be able to drive myself to appointments and not feel like I was stuck at home. Another difference between kind of the post-recovery after the C-section and my postpartum experience was that my breastfeeding journey was a lot more difficult after the C-section, and it was my first baby, so that's also relevant. My milk was very delayed coming in, and so I felt I was on a back foot of my baby gaining weight and a back foot breastfeeding, and I was very supported in my breastfeeding journey, but it was a hard struggle, and we did get there. I found it very stressful and upsetting initially when my baby wasn't gaining weight and when my milk hadn't come in, and that is partly because of having had a C-section. The second time then, when I got my VBAC, and that was part of the reason why I wanted a VBAC, my milk came in really quickly and my baby started gaining weight really quickly, and it was just easier to feed her logistically because it was much easier for me to move around and pick her up, so that was a big win for me as well, having had the VBAC. I felt very supported in CUMH. In just when people asked me what my plan was or what I wanted, I just felt straight away everyone understood when I said I want to have an active labour. My plan is for VBAC. You know, I didn't want to have an epidural initially, and so I wanted to wait and see if I felt that I needed to have the epidural, and I was given all of the options of other kind of pain management, like the gas and air, which was unreal, and I had my Winner Flow initially, and the TENS machine, and then I did need something more. I just felt like everything that I asked for I was given very respectfully. You know, when I did the VBAC antenatal classes, the online classes, they were really informative, but I did feel almost like we were being empowered if we needed to really fight and advocate for ourselves, that we would be able to do that. And I never felt that I actually had to do it when it came to it. I never felt that. I'm a real advocate for VBACs, and I am so glad that I looked for the support and got the support that enabled me to have a successful VBAC.